first hospital on the very first day of the very first mission was this hospital that had just lost one of their own because of suicide, because of the stress of the environment, the stress of battling the pandemic. And we made a point to look up the reaction of that hospital because we knew what they were going through. And we could see that the coworkers are crying, hugging each other, clearly an emotional event for them, and that captured the essence of our connection with the ground. Folks who are on the front lines battling and what we're doing to try to help them in the air. Beginning what would become one of the most significant missions I think both these teams have ever conducted in our entire history.
The idea actually came from the Thunderbirds to provide a bit of inspiration to the medical workers, the doctors, the nurses, the surgeons, the first responders who are out there truly on the front lines against a global pandemic, and give them just a couple of minutes of respite and a way to honor them and to say thank you.
And we are so proud to go out there and honor everyone who's battling COVID-19 in their own way.
I'm Rick Pollack, President and CEO of the American Hospital Association. Over the past 2 years, we faced the biggest public health crisis in a century. At a time when our brave healthcare givers continue to work around the clock, working to compassionately care for our patients and protect the communities we serve, the flyovers by the U.S. Air Force's Thunderbirds and the U.S. Navy's Blue Angels as part of America Strong, it was really appreciated, and it was a great morale booster. While much of the world had come to a stop and many were in lockdown, hospitals and health systems, and our courageous frontline healthcare workers, they never stopped caring. And it was a team effort. From the nurses, doctors, and respiratory therapists to those who clean the rooms, bring the food, and secure the facilities, it was all hands on deck. From the corner office, to the back office, to the boardroom. You know, the Thunderbirds and Blue Angels represent America in so many ways. And their skill, bravery, teamwork, and professionalism are traits that we've seen reflected in our healthcare heroes. Knowing that America was flying with us provided real inspiration in our battle against COVID-19. Couldn't help but be moved by the sight of these magnificent aviators streaking across the sky, bringing a message of hope, strength, and unity. The flights reminded us that even in the darkest of times, it's always possible to lift our eyes to the skies and come together to take a moment to recharge. On behalf of the women and men of America's hospitals and health systems, and all the frontline providers and responders, thank you so much for your recognition and support. It's really appreciated.
Being on this team is an incredible challenge, but it's also an incredible opportunity. The flying is unlike anything else you've ever done in your career if you're a fighter pilot. In addition to that, the maintenance work, the public affairs work, the back shops, all the support that we get, it's unique because no matter what you do, you have your primary job, but then you also have the job to recruit, retain, inspire, and be that representative of the United States military to the civilians who are out there on the road. Each year we're on the road about 233 days out of the year, and we'll go to roughly 40 show sites and execute 65 to 70 air shows any given season. That's our normal battle rhythm. And it means that we're going to be traveling anywhere from beginning of March to the end of November conducting air shows all across America, but even in some cases we'll travel internationally and conduct air shows overseas as a sign of good faith and to be the ambassadors in blue, as they call us, for the United States military. And it's a team effort. So it's not just that individual folks can make it to these milestones on their own. We have to make it there as a team. So we're continually progressing, advancing, learning together, and forming our team identity in the training season. The team is signed off and certified, and we're ready to take our show on the road to inspire the millions of people who are waiting to see the Thunderbirds perform, both on the ground and in the air. So in 2020, we had the opportunity to train, and we trained hard, and the team was ready, prepared. We were motivated and ready to go out on the road and perform our first air show when the pandemic hit. The pandemic hit in March of 2020, and immediately we knew that this was going to be something that was going to have a dramatic effect on the team. We immediately canceled our first show. We had in fact already deployed our Thunderbird 8, our advanced pilot narrator, who was on site at Laughlin Air Force Base, and the rest of the team was just getting on the C-17 when we finally made the decision that we need to stop the movement and we need to take a pause to see what's actually happening with the outbreak of this virus.
Everything was set up very nicely and on track. And then I go to my first advance, which, like I said, I leave Wednesday ahead of the team. I get there, we do our advance meeting, everything again is looking good, and that is when I get the phone call. As soon as our advance meeting is done, I get the phone call from the boss. Hey, we're on a 24-hour slip, there's this virus that could potentially be spreading and we're not sure, so we're just gonna take a pause for about 24 hours. As
the threat landscape changes, we can reorient ourselves. As the tactical picture changes, we can create new tactics. I mean, that's what we train to do in the military, to be flexible. We're always prepared to engage the enemy or an opportunity, no matter what the challenges are associated with that. And what we develop in the military is resiliency. Resiliency both in our personal lives and our professional lives and with our job. We knew that we weren't going to be able to hit the road because there was certain public safety health issues that were clearly present at the time, and we wanted to make sure that we were doing our part to keep everyone safe on the team and in the community. So we decided staying here at Nellis and just assessing the situation was the best thing to do. But immediately it changed the way that we operate naturally. We're a team that relies on flying airplanes and executing a demonstration, and we couldn't do that. So we had to find a way to operate from our house and still conduct normal squadron functions while being in our living room with our kids running around who are also in quarantine, and figuring out how to move the needle, how to continue to make the squadron successful and do the normal functions, even though all of our normal tools and resources were not at our disposal.
I was driving into the squadron to go to the first show, and they're like, hey guys, you know, we're on a 24-hour slip to the next day. And I was like, huh, okay, interesting. And then I'm driving into work for the next day, and they're like, hey, we're canceled, like hard canceled, and we're on freeze, and everyone go home and you know, quarantine. And I was like, wow, yeah, this got real really fast.
When I saw the battle that the medical care workers were going through, I immediately was empathetic. The situation really looked like combat, where you are putting your gear on in the morning, you're going into the field of battle, and you're battling something. Now in this case it was a virus. It wasn't an actual person or entity. It was a virus, but they were conducting battle. I immediately had an incredible amount of respect that they were doing this day in and day out, being completely exhausted, unsure of the future, of are things going to get better, are they going to get worse, fighting for the survival of their patients, fighting for their own survival, and knowing that they may be bringing that risk into their own household. So we just had an incredible amount of respect, and we wanted to make sure they felt like we are with you in this battle. Even though I don't know how to fight COVID-19, we are still supporting you because we know what you're doing is for the defense of this nation, it's for the health of this country, and it's because you reflect some of the best of us. You reflect the character and the integrity of the American people, and we know that that's what motivated them to go in and day out and face a daunting enemy, but do it in a way that was courageous and inspiring.
And these missions were not easy. I mean, these are on the level of combat. The preparation, both from the maintenance personnel, the public affairs, the pilots, the mission planners. I mean, it was a lot. I mean, we mission plan these things down to the turn radius around the specific hospitals or certain sites, and it had to be that way because in a town, you know, if you're flying over Los Angeles or New York, then I mean, you're studying the imagery like you would study like combat imagery of something, and you're deciding how exactly you're going to fly around these specific points in space, and you're linking all these turns together and you're scripting it out. I mean, we had to look at things we never looked at before. How much smoke does the airplane even produce? Because we never ran into a situation where we'd run out of smoke before. But if we want to put the smoke out for every hospital and every first responder along the route, so we had to start thinking outside the container about how we were going to do that.
We knew that we could do something with our formations and take this visible symbol of strength and unity to the people who are out there doing their part to battle COVID-19 through the neighborhoods, through the streets, over the grocery stores, but more importantly to honor the healthcare workers. And that's where we started the idea of America Strong, where the idea came about that we can salute everyone out there who's doing their part, but specifically to show the medical care workers that we are here, that we support you, we're thinking about you, and we're in this together.
When we saw how much COVID was ramping up, when I saw that and realizing the strain it was putting on to the medical community, I felt for them. I felt for them in a way that I would feel to my comrades who are about to deploy, who are about to go to our austere location, working hours that they could never even dream about, because hours no longer matter, days no longer matter. Getting the mission complete is what mattered. The hard part was that COVID wasn't something that you can see. It wasn't something that you could take in the sense of a traditional battle. It was something that was invisible, and it was something that you could only really measure how well you were battling it based off of the reaction that was happening weeks or months later. So you never got the instantaneous, hey, we're doing a good thing, or we're getting better, or we're getting worse. It was very difficult to judge. And because of that, the strain that it put on the healthcare community was unbelievable. I can't imagine how difficult it was to essentially go into work and not really know how long this battle rhythm was going to continue. How long were these 12-hour, 14-hour, 24-hour days going to continue? And there were some days, I imagine, where there was very low volume, and it seemed like, oh, this isn't too bad, it's getting better, just to find out the very next week that you're getting slammed with cases, and you feel like you can't catch up, or you can't catch a break.
We wanted to take this mission and execute it first in our backyard. We wanted to show our support to our local community. We're part of this community. We're part of the fabric of Las Vegas. We're part of its identity, in my opinion. And our families, work with folks who live here. Our kids go to the same school. And we knew that we wanted to make sure that Las Vegas knows that your Thunderbirds are here to support you during this dark moment. Flying a 6-ship Delta over 18 hospitals in Las Vegas area, a major metropolitan area with over 2 million people, low altitude with all the hazards that are out there. We've never done it before. Nobody's ever done that before. Not for that duration, for that extent, with that, I would say, ambitious of a flight plan. So we knew that if we were going to fly these missions, we needed to do it somewhere that would be our proving ground. And there was no better place than right here in Las Vegas, because this is where we're from, we're part of this community, and we wanted to honor the folks who are here in our local community first.
A lot of divisions started to happen in the country. You had the frontline workers, the healthcare workers, working crazy hours. They don't have the PPE they need. No one knows when this is going to end. So for us to be able to take, a kind of a patriotic symbol of red, white, and blue jets, and to show the unity and the patriotism and go over their cities and specifically targeting the hospitals. I mean, when we're flying formation, we can't look around, but there were some instances where we would be in a turn and I would be looking right through the formation, and we would go over a parking ramp at a hospital, and you could see everyone in their scrubs lined up on top. So you just get a glimpse of the crowd down there, of the people, the doctors and nurses that had come up to see us. And you'd land and get the videos afterwards that people would send you, and people would be in tears. It was just such a beacon of hope in a dark time.
We had an incredible sense of pride because we had the opportunity to go out there and represent, to highlight the struggles of the medical community, the healthcare workers, and even if it was for a brief moment, we had the opportunity to brighten their day a little bit, to give them a little bit of encouragement so that they could go in and continue doing the job that they have been doing day in and day out. And at the end of the day, that feeling, that satisfaction of knowing that we did that, albeit a very small portion of the battle in COVID, gave us an overwhelming sense of satisfaction. And we knew that this was an important mission right then and there. On the ramp, as we were climbing out of the jets, exhausted, tired, we knew that what we did was good for the country, we knew it was good for the community, and we knew that this would make a difference and help brighten people's day.
America Strong for us was definitely an outstanding opportunity to highlight the great work that was being done by the medical professionals, first responders, the essential workers that were helping keep the American way of life intact during the pandemic. We were able to be a bright spot in an otherwise very, very dark time in America. So what I would say is look for that in your everyday lives. Look for something that you can latch onto. Look for the positives in every scenario. And that's definitely an enduring message of America Strong that I think can continue regardless of the circumstances.
We looked back on the mission and we reviewed all of the planning. We reviewed the route. We reviewed the technical aspect of it, the tactics. And what we realized was close coordination with the civilian authorities, with the FAA, with Towers, with RAPCON. They had a huge role to play in the success of these missions, and it would later lay the foundation, the groundwork required. That lesson learned, that knowledge that these people are absolutely critical to successful execution of these flyovers, laid the groundwork for the cooperation and relationships that we built later that made America strong in the larger cities, New York, Baltimore, DC. It's what made it possible. It was the realization that everybody has a role to play in the successful operation of America Strong sorties. And immediately we set out with our eyes on Colorado and those lessons learned, knowing that we wanted to take what we just did for the Las Vegas community, the experience that they got to have with the Thunderbirds, and the rallying cry that it was in this battle against COVID-19. We wanted to take that to Colorado because that was our next stop. We had a plan to fly over the academy for the graduation. It was a first COVID-19 graduation, socially distanced, and so we weren't allowed to go and operate out of Peterson Air Force Base, which we normally do. We flew it as a round robin, meaning we left from Las Vegas, we flew all the way to Colorado and flew all the way back without ever landing anywhere other than Las Vegas. So the plan was ambitious, where we were going to make the 2-hour mission to get to Colorado. We were going to hold and fly over the academy for their flyover, join up with other tankers, and then start on the northern half of Colorado and slowly work our way to the south and fly over as many medical facilities as we possibly could to show them the same support that we showed the Las Vegas community.
The overwhelming success we had in Vegas really lent itself to giving Colorado a shot. And Colorado didn't start out as an America Strong flyby. It was simply right over the academy. The chief of staff had seen what we'd done in Las Vegas, and then from there it really kind of took on its own life. And the Thunderbirds worked with all of the state of Colorado, quite a few of the hospitals, and that was really the dress rehearsal for America Strong at that point. So we'd proven that it would be well received by the community when we did it in Las Vegas. This was more of a large state, basically up and down I-25. It was an unbelievably difficult mission for them. The weather wasn't good. Commander leader did a fantastic job. Everybody came home safe, but people don't understand how dangerous it was that day for them to do that. In and out of the clouds, there was quite a bit of weather. And they were able to execute perfectly. And I think Colorado, again, the feedback was fantastic, but that really was, at that point, America Strong. I think the Pentagon realized they had something here that could really bring a ray of hope to the whole nation.
If we missed a hospital by a mile, then the intended effect just wasn't going to be achieved. So I knew how important it was that I knew the approach angle for these hospitals. I knew what it looked like. I knew what the hospital, where it was situated. I knew what side we wanted to fly on. We knew where the people were going to be at. We decided whether we wanted them to see the top side of the jet with smoke or the bottom side of the jet with smoke. And so all these things were items that we had to study and we had to figure out. But the first step in that is, where are the hospitals? And it turns out that our flight doc, so Thunderbird 9, was in a perfect position to dig up that information for us, and he became the primary source of data to find where all the hospitals are located, and he created a Google Earth overlay for every city we went to with all the major medical facilities.
We could see it building, you could see it developing, and we thought, you know what, we need to make this bigger. We need to go to the next step because we're having this positive effect. And we need to spread this out as far and wide as we can get in the country. And literally, we just no more than just call the Blues up. And I think it was R7 talked to his equivalent over in the Blue Angels. We have a really good relationship with them. How about we invade your home and come live with you for the next week? And we're going to put together a flyover and let's do the East Coast. And so it took a little bit of planning and a little bit of flexing, but we managed to get local authority to fly out there very organically. This was not from on high. We just rolled out to Pensacola, landed, and started planning with the Blues. Our capabilities and integrating with them, it just developed from there. And so all of a sudden word gets around that, hey, the Thunderbirds are in Pensacola, the Blue Angels, the two major air demonstration squadrons of the United States military, the Department of Defense, are together in Pensacola. And so from higher up, the Secretary of Defense and Chiefs of Staff, we told them what was going on through our PA and operational channels. Said, hey, we have this great idea, it worked great, we've ops tested it, we want to spread this out and spread this word to the rest of at least bring a little bit of inspiration to the rest of the community, the rest of the country, I should say.
When it was presented to me, I initially liked the idea, but I did have some concerns. I was concerned that we did not come across as business as usual while the nation and our international teammates were all suffering greatly through the worst days of the pandemic. So we really talked through and thought through, why are we doing this? But how are we going to do that to align the how and the what with the why? And so we worked hard with the local leadership in each of the cities to make sure that our routes were appropriate and that the word got out and we stuck to our purpose. This was not about going out there to do an air show. This was certainly not about recruiting, during a global pandemic. This is about honoring first responders. We hit as many hospitals and clinics and emergency response units as we could possibly do. I'm very proud of the way it came together, and by the way, this was not easy flying. It was as challenging and as dangerous as anything we do in a air show, because during an air show you have essentially a box that you clear out and there's no obstacles. You pre-fly the mission, you get a chance to practice beforehand, you know about everything that you need to know about that particular location when you go. Not so when you're flying close formation over a city for the first time. You got towers, tall buildings, birds, you name it, and it's all on the leader.
Hospitals were not designed, at least the way that they were mapped out in terms of their construction. They were not designed in a way that makes it easy to fly over all of them. They're just normally located, just scattered about kind of landscape in the major urban areas. And so we had to come up with very creative ways of how we're going to go from one hospital to the next, and still keep it in a way that is executable with a 6 ship of aircraft flying in close formation very low to the ground. So it was a lot of research, generating a data set, handing it to the pilots, and then the pilots sitting down and plotting those, and then the pilots coming up and support officers coming up with a route of travel that was going to maximize the exposure of the team to the hospitals on the ground. 248 major medical facilities total when all was said and done at the end of America Strong, which was no simple feat. And as I said, each one of those hospitals, we put an incredible amount of study, detail, and consideration to make sure each one got the appropriate flyover at the right time, at the right altitude, at the right angle. Every single one. We put that level of detail into and attention into because that's how important it was to us to make sure that they saw the team and they knew that we were thinking of them and trying to show them a visible sign of the strength of this country and a visible sign of the support of the people in it.
Knowing that we were doing something way bigger than ourselves to represent the Air Force, the team on a national level, to inspire those workers to continue doing what they do. How America Strong just erupted, flying over many hospitals, all the cities. America saw that the Thunderbirds cared about the first line supervisors, healthcare workers, first responders, and that gave them a big salute from our team. And it just expanded from city to city, over to hospitals, to just local communities. Keep hope alive, keep the faith. There's nothing that too big that we can't overcome.
If you talk to any of the old fighter pilots, there's a lot of them around that have done a flyby or two. They've flown over the Super Bowl, or they've flown over the Hudson River, or they've flown over a parade, but none of them have flown over about 18 disparate individual events, perfectly timed, with 12 airplanes. This was a massive operation for the two teams to pull off. I mean, going into the most crowded airspace in the world, Manhattan, with unbelievably tall buildings, and maneuvering two massive formations of fighter jets all within 3 feet of each other in order to perfectly hit the time on target on all these hospitals that are just reeling from COVID-19 effects. For the team to pull that all off and to get their fuel on time and to come back and land safely was truly all that heavy lifting done early in the preparation, the mission planning, and the practice. But no doubt the day of the execution was an unbelievably heavy lift for both teams to pull off perfectly like they did. We did some after-action analysis, really, of mostly social media, because there's just some objective data that you can collect from that. Likes, interactions, posts, shares, comments, tweets, and we ran some algorithms on that, and we found out there was 13 billion social media global interactions on just the first day of America Strong. So it dominated the news cycle. It was on CNBC, Fox News, CNN, all the local news stations, and it was ubiquitous on social media to the point that 13 billion people did something in response to those flybys. It was truly remarkable.
At this point, I think we'd been locked down for over a month, and these were folks that hadn't left their house, that hadn't seen their neighbors in a month. That I think we're starting to feel the effects of doom and gloom and all the negativity that was surrounding COVID, rightfully so. And we saw it as an opportunity to bring light to people, to have people walk outside of their doorstep and realize that the sun was still shining, and that, well, maybe it's not today, that at some point in the future, there was going to be a light at the end of this tunnel, and that we were all going to be okay. That even though we were in this together, that we were going to come out the other side, because we're strong and we're resilient as a nation. And as the Thunderbirds, we knew that we could represent that for people, that we represent America with our red, white, and blue aircraft that fly our flag, that are an easy identifiable symbol of this country and this nation and its strength. And we wanted to go out and lay down a demonstration for people to show that, hey, the United States is still here. America's still here. We care about you. We're here for you. We're supporting you. And we're all in this together, and we're going to make it through.
It meant a lot to me, just because you see everywhere showing support for the military. Before COVID, you didn't really see this happening for your medical field, so it allowed me to say thank you back and show my support to them.
It was very inspiring, the fact that we were able to impact so many people, and we were able to, bring hope to those people that were honestly struggling at that time, and it was scary. It still is scary in some cases, but at that point in time, it was extremely scary for a lot of people, and so it was all about them.
As a Thunderbird, I really appreciate everything that frontline workers did, all the medical personnel did throughout this pandemic. And coming from me, I just want to say thank you. Coming from the team, I thank you for everything you've done.
When America Strong actually happened, it was so amazing. It was so amazing. Just to be able to join forces with the Blue Angels, to be able to see the looks on people's faces. Every single flyover that we did, I'm watching the live stream, because I want to see everything that people are saying in the comments. I want to see exactly how the jets look, all the people that are reposting, the people that are coming outside of their houses, standing in their backyards, sitting on their roofs, just so they can get a little bit of a glimpse of hope, because that's what it was.
I have friends back home that are nurses, so talking to them when everything happened and seeing how busy they were and stuff was definitely, it was eye-opening, because you don't really see that side of it. I think America Strong was special to the people that work in the hospitals. It gave them, that mental break, even if it was a 30-second break, to step away and see an aircraft flying over dedicated to them, because they're the ones out there putting the work in and doing everything they need to do.
The glimmer of hope for all the nurses and all the medical staff and frontline fighters fighting the COVID battle. And just having that in my mind while I was at work trying to accomplish this mission, it was life-changing. It means a lot.
When people look at the Thunderbirds, they see the pilots and they see the aircraft. A lot of times what is not realized is all of the maintainers, all of the support personnel, the contractors. It is a total force that helps get this team on the road to a location. It takes an entire team. It's just not the pilots that you see executing. It's hundreds that come together to make that happen. When you look at what it is the Air Force does as far as the precision, the discipline, the professionalism, the Thunderbirds are a manifestation of that. When you look at where they go, how they showcase what it is that we embody as a force, they're a national treasure, national asset, and a way for us to communicate. America, you can be proud in your Air Force because this is who they are, and they are the Thunderbirds.
The thing that I liked about this whole thing the most is that it was a bottom-up idea that blossomed not from the top, not as a publicity stunt, not as a PR thing, but as a genuine salute to those people who, unlike us in uniform, swear an oath to put ourselves in harm's way. These are people who were working in grocery stores, the first responders, the medical people, scores of medical people that were putting themselves in harm's way. They never took an oath, but they're doing their duty. America Strong represents not just an event, but a feeling. It represents the best of what we are when we're performing at our best. It represents that thing that is indeed something bigger than yourself. It represents a consideration for others that we need to recapture in this nation. So I encourage you not just to watch this, but I encourage you to pass it on. Pass it on with enthusiasm. This event did attract a degree of unity that we would not have otherwise have had at that particular moment. Much like 9/11 brought all Americans together for the humanitarian aspects of acknowledging the sacrifices that all were going through during this particular time. And if only for a brief moment, but I think it actually lasted a little longer than that, if only for a brief moment, we were able to show ourselves at our very best. Not only the teams that were performing, but also the acknowledgement of the American people that this is appreciated, that our military would take the time to salute the American people for what they were going through.
America Strong mission was born out of this capability that the Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels have to create a groundswell of patriotism publicly. The perfect audience for the Thunderbirds and Blue Angels was to directly go to those people that were combating COVID-19, and that is the frontline healthcare workers, and flew over multiple institutions and multiple hospitals, and there were COVID patients in there. What did it do? It elevated the ethos of the American public, similar to the resistance of what it would be if you were at war. We're going to see through this, and we're going to survive. It took their entire thinking level and brought it up, and that's the kind of impact that these national assets, that Thunderbirds particularly, they have.
Yeah, Thunderbirds were like a ray of light, you know, like a beam of light coming through the clouds. It's a moment in a dark period in American history where the Thunderbirds were able to have the nation see that things would be better ahead, that there was hope on the horizon. And there was hope because these first responders across America were bringing hope and solving the problem.
You know, we're telling you about something you already kind of knew about because you saw it nationally publicized. However, this is what it really was. And so it's important. And I think people will see that. People will see that. Their American spirit will see that. When you look up and you see the Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels, they're doing this to show we are in this together. They're doing this to say thank you. They're doing this because they want us to realize there is hope. You're not alone. You may think you're alone, you're not. We're all in this together, and by the way, we're doing all of this for you.
If it helps just a little bit, if you get just a little bit of relief and inspiration from it, then it was all 100% worth it. And I can tell you, I've been in those situations, and my sincerest hope is that everyone would know that you are who we're flying for. You are who we're doing this for. If you're asking if it was for you, the answer is yes.
To combine our desire to continue our mission of recruit, retain, and inspire, as well as highlight the first responders, the medical personnel, those essential workers that were keeping us safe, America Strong was born.
To have the opportunity to do that was something incredible, and it'll be something that kind of goes down in the team's history as a really unique time, and it was kind of what the U.S. needed at that point.
It's one of those times in your life when you look back and you say, I can't believe I was there when that happened. It's one of those events similar to 9/11 when you look back and you know that the world will never be the same based off the events that are happening right now.
I think what we need is to kind of just have compassion for your fellow man or woman. And the sooner that you can do that, the sooner that these problems in the world, pandemics, wars, things like that, they're not going to seem so big and out of reach. They're not going to seem so unattainable. I think the more that you can learn who it is that you're working with, that's riding next to you on the subway, whatever it is, the faster that we can conquer problems like this in the future, and the better off that we'll be in general.
Everything that they did and fought through and relied on their training to heal people and help battle us through this pandemic was absolutely incredible, and I can't think of a better way in my position where we're at to have tipped the hat to them and salute them and everything that they did. So thank you so much for everything.
We wanted these folks, these Americans, to know that we had their back, and as a nation that there were people that supported and cared about them, that at the end of their 10th 12-hour shift in a row that there were people that were thankful for them and that were grateful for the work that they were putting in. So the fact that we could go out and honor all these folks and just show them as a nation, really represent on behalf of an entire country, just what these folks had done for us.
It was worth every moment of energy and then some. I always told the guys and gals that this is a mission that we need to leave everything on the field. All that you have, every bit of energy. We're gonna look back on this and I wanna have no regrets. So we're gonna make sure that we fly these missions, we fly them in a professional way, and that we do everything we possibly can to share this message of support, of unity, and encouragement to as many communities, as many areas as we possibly can.
When we learned about the Thunderbirds and Blue Angels America Strong missions, we knew that this historic demonstration of hope and appreciation could be shared with the American people and the world in a way that you could take a moment to sit down and relax and learn about this inspiring true story. For so many people that were too busy to stop for more than just a moment during the pandemic, as Thunderbird number 9, the team's flight surgeon put it so well, this is for you. While the America Strong mission will live on in American history, as we look to the future, we believe it's important that you share America Strong with your friends and family, and to those on the front lines who have done so much for all of us, and to those who are still in need.